Okay, I believe we are live here. I'm just going to double check something here. Okay, welcome to the second segment of Quantum Leap. We have wealth manager Robin Patin with us today, who Corey and I have known for a few years now from our Abundant Referrals Circle networking chapter. And before we get to Robin, I just wanted to have Corey introduce himself. And if you don't mind just telling us how you guys testimonial or just how you know Robin.
Yeah, I'm Corey Knott, and I am a visionary business coach with Take Wing Coaching and co-host here with David on the Quantum Leap podcast. And I knew Robin actually when forming a BNI chapter several years ago. So she was definitely an important factor in helping us get that going. It did not launch, which is not uncommon with BNI chapters. And I think we actually kind of got killed by COVID too, right? It was sort of everything shut down and it was difficult to make that. So she found a space in our chapter, and I was very much in favor of having her be our financial advisor, knowing that she is a solid, reliable, and highly trustworthy individual, which is, of course, what we want in a financial advisor.
Yeah, I know financial advisors is one of those fields where trust is really the most important thing, but also knowledge as well. And Robin has both of those, and I'm gonna let her do most of her introduction, but I'll just say she has this way of cutting through everything and just really kind of making you feel comfortable with the program that works for you. And, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Robin, to just tell us who you are and what you do.
Thank you. So I've known both of you for years, and it's been a true pleasure knowing you both. We're both part of the Abundant Referral Group. I am a financial planner, wealth manager. I am a CFP, Certified Financial Planner, and a Certified Private Wealth Advisor, CPWA. And I love this work. It's the hardest job I've ever had. I deal with people and their emotions and their money all day, every day. But I genuinely like the clients I serve, and I genuinely like the work that I do. I came into this work probably 7 years ago through a firm called Edward Jones. And, Edward Jones helped me get started, set up, licensed, and credentialed to do this work. And I have been working in this area ever since. 2022 has been a very special year. This has been a bear market. And so it's definitely testing my chops as a wealth manager and as a financial advisor. And it's good to be able to shepherd people who I genuinely like and want the best for through a really choppy point in the market.
Yeah, we definitely have some crazy times out there in the markets these days. Turmoil and, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of hazards. If you don't mind just telling us a little crib sheet or what you're seeing out there that investors might want to know about.
Sure. So again, 2022 has been a wild year. Inflation really took off and the Feds really began to respond with raising interest rates. And the market has responded to that because the free money party or the cheap money party is now over. Money has become much more expensive because of raises in interest rates. And the stock market doesn't necessarily like that. There's also a lot of mixed signals in the economy. There are some indicators that we are doing perfectly fine. We have unemployment rates at all-time lows. People are back out spending money left and right. But then there are other indicators that we are either in recession or heading to recession. And I believe a lot of top economists and the chair of the federal board, they don't quite know what to make of all this conflicting information. And the reason why this information is in such conflict is because this is the first experience we have coming out of a pandemic in a century. And so, the government basically, printed money and gave it away for 2.5 years during COVID. There are supply chain constraints now. it's the perfect storm for inflation. The clients who I am really concerned about are my retirees. Retirees have a different reaction to inflation than people like you and me who are out working. It's easy for us to go and say, okay, boss, we need 10% more, or work harder to get that 10% more. Retirees just don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, great. Corey, do you have any comment there?
No, just agree with everything. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well put. And everybody sees what I mean by that succinctness to what she says, and we really appreciate that. What type of investment advice do you give? And I know we're going to give some more anecdotes later, but if you don't mind just giving us kind of a big picture, or maybe a couple anecdotes of how you work here.
So I am a certified financial planner by training, which means I look at a person holistically. It's not just give me your money, let me invest it. Investing is actually one portion of wealth building. There are so many other aspects of wealth building, including insurance, taxes, and estate planning. And, I'm not expert in estate planning. I'm not expert in taxes, but I know my way around. And often when a client sits in front of me, I know what questions to ask to get them to the right answer or to the right person. So, when you're working with a financial planner or a wealth manager, it needs to be a person who can look at you holistically. And of course, they're going to invest your money, but they also need to think how they're going to protect your money. What insurance do you need? What estate planning do you need? How can we save you on taxes and do this in a most tax efficient manner? Because I can create the best investment plan, but if you give it all to the government in taxes, well, that's loss. So I always advise people when they're interviewing different wealth managers, or when they're even talking to me, look at someone who can treat you in a holistic manner.
Perfect. I'm going to turn it over to Corey for
my questions. All right. So I know you heard a little bit of your story, but what would you say is, why do you do that? What got you into this? What is it that brings you to serve your clients or to be in this line of work?
Sure. So oddly enough, when I was in college, I majored in corporate finance, which is a completely different branch of the financial world than, the consumer side of finance. I considered becoming a financial advisor directly out of college. It's really tough to become a financial advisor directly out of college. Because a lot of people have qualms about trusting a 20-year-old with their money. And B, I think you have to develop a healthy respect for what people do to earn their money in order to do this job well. Mm-hmm. I came into this role when I was 36, and I had my fair share of jobs across different fields. I've worked for good bosses, I've worked for bad bosses, I've worked in great situations, I've worked in absolute horror shows. And it really gave me a healthy respect. When I see a number on a screen, I know what that person did to earn that money. And the average age of a financial advisor entering the field is 38. The average age of a financial advisor is in the 60s. So we have a big problem in that we need more financial advisors to do this work, and we need them to be on the younger side. Right. But I think it's very important for financial advisors, and there are people who come into this field out of college and completely knock it out of the park and do a fantastic job. But personally, I think it's important to get some experience working for someone else to develop a healthy respect of what your clients are doing to earn a living and to earn that wealth.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, that's good. And anything else that, maybe just what drove you to get into corporate finance?
It was a predominantly engineering school. I went to Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, which in retrospect probably wasn't the best fit for my personality. Business was the only major there that made sense. I really, for a second, thought I was going to do corporate finance until I did corporate finance and realized I don't really like this very much. I went on to get a master's in health from NYU and worked as a healthcare administrator for a number of years. This iteration of my career as a wealth manager, this is the final stop. I'm 43 and I'm not switching careers. So this is my happy spot. But I worked across a number of different fields, and that gives me respect and empathy, especially for my younger clients who go through that process. Oddly enough, one of my most common referrals are to career coaches. Career coaches, because so many people need that guidance right now. Accountants, estate attorneys, business law specialists, career coaches.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, I always say what I do is counseling with an overlay of money.
Sure.
It rarely what I'm doing is about the money. It's about the emotion behind the money. And if you don't take care of the emotion behind the money, if you're lost.
Yeah,
and you're not serving the client.
Right. And so speaking of emotions, because now we're heading into a challenging time, which, you know, maybe some people just give up and there's less emotion, and I'm sure for some people there's a lot more emotion. So what would you say is the challenges now of investing in this economy?
It's and I will say, before I am a wealth manager, I'm a human being. I have my own emotions as well. You know, there are mornings where I wake up and I don't want to see the account values, but I have to look at it because it's my job. And so I think whenever you're working with someone, you want someone who acknowledges their own humanity and their own emotions behind it. You know, it's kind of like in this field, you have to feel the fear and do it anyway. You have to make that difficult call to that client. You have to face people. You don't hide from people when things are tough. You're getting out in front of people and talking to people and engaging people. And so I think the first step in acknowledging the emotions of others is acknowledging your own emotions and respecting that. But it's also getting out in front of people and not being afraid to take those difficult calls or to face someone down and tell someone, you know, your portfolio is down 15% and there just isn't anything you can do about it right now.
Right.
People appreciate the transparency and the honesty about it. It's when you disappear that it's a problem. And, you know, I'm an introvert by nature. You know, it's my instinct to like hide under the desk. And, you know, I owe these people, you know, presence, and I owe them transparency. So I pick up the phone and I make that call, or I sit in front of this desk in front of them and tell them what's really going on. It's also, you know, not painting an overly rosy picture. We're in tough times, and this is not something that's going to recover overnight. It's setting that expectation in advance that things are going to be rough for the next few months. I am here, I am available, you know, I'm not going to cut and run, but things are going to be tough.
Yeah. And so then who would make your ideal client?
So an ideal, especially. An ideal client. And, you know, these are tough times, but I'll tell you this, rich people don't feel recession. People, it's like, it's not even a blip on their radar. And I deal with a lot of wealthy people. My average account size is about $500,000 in investable assets. There are clients that I deal with 30 million and above, but those clients are typically done in a team format, where it's the estate planner, the accountant, the business law specialist, and myself together working up a plan for that particular client to deal with a business sale or transfer of assets onto the next generation. If you have someone with 30 million or more, I'm your person. But typically, honestly, the clients I really love to deal with are the people $500,000 more, worked really hard for everything they have, or want someone responsible and who will be accountable to them to manage the money, and just want a fair rate of return for their hard work and what they've put into building what they have.
Great. Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. There was something you said I had a comment on, but now I forgot. I apologize. Anyway, David, do you want
to? Yeah, we can come back to it if you think of it. We have about, just a time check, we have about 10 minutes, and we have a great little crib sheet here, just some more specific things that Robin has thoughts on that we wanted to ask her about. What some of these are kind of related questions, but what do you see as the biggest barriers for Black and brown folks building wealth at this point, and how can you help those people in specific, or people in similar scenarios?
Great question. If you haven't noticed, there's not very many people that look like me in the field of wealth management. I want to change that. This is a great field. There's many places of opportunity here. If you know a woman or a person of color or anyone who is interested in financial advising or wealth management, send them my way. I would love to talk to them about the career and the opportunities. I think a big barrier for people of color is that they don't see themselves reflected in the field. And it could be really intimidating to sit in front of a guy in a suit in an office and basically bare your financial soul. Many of the sessions I have are really like intimate sessions where people really, talk about what's going on in their lives. And for my Black and brown clients, there's often a lot of shame. There's often a lot of responsibility because maybe they're the first or second generation wealth and they want to know how to handle it and how to be responsible to it. And there's a lot of things that I think as a Black or brown person, they're more comfortable telling me versus telling someone sitting across the desk from a suit. It may be a sibling who has drug addiction, or a family member who has a mental illness who they're trying to figure out how to take care of. So it's when you see yourself reflected, it opens doors. And I think that's one of the biggest barrier is getting more people into doing this work. There's a lot more knowledge available now than it was 10 or 15 years ago. YouTube has been a godsend, for better or for worse. There's some really great information out there to get people started and to get people thinking, how do I create generational wealth and how do I handle this?
Yeah, and this is a little bit of a follow-up. I know we've talked about this issue, but it's kind of a conventional wisdom where you don't want to go out there and necessarily try to look like your favorite rap star. Don't try to be Jay-Z, for example. If you spend all your money on cars, you're going to probably stay poor. Do you have any thoughts on this kind of the some of the hazards out there and what might be a cultural thing versus actually how to build wealth?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest faults of American society is how we depict wealth. We depict it as big houses, flashy cars, designer clothing, all these different things. And the reality is these are not trappings of wealth. These are often poor people who are trying to look wealthy. Okay. When you see your favorite celebrity and designer and, jewelry, often that is either given to the person or it's lent to the person for them to wear to give publicity to the brand. Rich people don't pay for much of anything. They're given a lot of their stuff, everything from cars to homes to clothing to present an image. Unfortunately, the average American sees this image and assumes that this is what it means to be wealthy. It's not. The vast majority of my clients who are very wealthy don't want you to know that they are wealthy. Reason being, when you know a person is wealthy, it opens them up to all sorts of liabilities, lawsuits, extortion, people coming out of the woodworks and asking them for money. They would much rather fly beneath the radar and live a simple life, but a life of security and a life of wealth, than wear designer clothes, live in a mansion, and drive a fancy car. So, I really encourage people, we have all these indicators of wealth. And when you do acquire wealth, pick one or two that really enhance your life and go with it. It may be that you need to drive a fancy car and you love designer clothes. Fine, go with it. I like to live in a nice apartment and I like to travel. I don't care about designer clothes and I drive a 10-year-old Toyota. It's really kind of pick what you want and go with it. But when you try to go with everything, it's one of the biggest destroyers of wealth is trying to look wealthy.
Yeah.
And just to drill down a little bit, in what I've learned from you and some of your colleagues, for example, a car, if you go out and even buy a modest Honda Accord and you have an $800 payment, it's a brand new car. If you had that versus driving your old Honda Accord where you don't have a payment, if you're investing $800 a month, the amount of wealth that is going to build over years is that could be the difference between being rich and poor, just a car payment.
It could mean a difference between a college education for your kid or, struggling to scrape through when they do go to university. I encourage people, for me, a car is a very functional thing. It's like, can this car reliably get me from point A to point B? If it can, I'm going to drive it. If it can't, it's time to get rid of it and get something new. I drive a Toyota Prius that I've had forever. I'm going to get another 6 years of use out of it before I get, another car. There are other wealth managers who are, driving Mercedes, Ferraris, you see like really, really nice cars. And it is that pressure to say, I need to step up. My little hunk of junk Prius is parked out here next to this guy's Hummer, and this looks like a piece of trash compared to his beautiful new car. But I also have to realize I don't want a car payment. I am not taking on a car payment ever again. Whatever car I get in the future, I will pay for cash. And whatever money was going to go towards a car note, that's going into my retirement account. That's going into my investment account. I really encourage people to buy a reliable car and keep it forever. Keep it until the wheels come off. When you want to get rid of the car is when it starts breaking down, when the safety features go obsolete or it's a hazard to someone. That's when you get rid of a car.
Yeah, I find that that's really something, sort of a family sort of thing. Like we learn that from our parents and the people around us. I mean, in Gail's family is the same way. They keep these cars until they fall apart. My family's kind of that way, though. As they get older, they tend to. Whereas my brother, though, he likes the flashy cars, and he's a master mechanic and knows how to get a good deal on them.
And I think you're absolutely 100% right. Growing up, from age 0 to 18, my parents may have had 6 cars. Right. And they kept them until the wheels came off, and that was just the attitude. We didn't like car notes. We kept things as long as possible. I wish more people would have that attitude. In some cases you just need to have a car note, but if you can get a position where you just pay it cash and have something reliable and safe for yourself and your family, you're good. Yeah. A car, in my opinion, is not a status symbol, nor should it.
Yeah, we bought a family car. This is actually the first time I've actually had a car payment. We bought a family car that could tow a trailer, and it's like now we can go everywhere. And and you couldn't buy this car other than new because it's still a new model. But it's a wonderful car and it'll go forever. So it'll probably go long lasting.
And I'm probably contrary to most financial advisors. I don't have a problem with new cars, but I say if you're going to buy a new car, you make it used. If you're buying a new car, you're going to keep that car. If it's a Honda, it'll last forever. It's Toyota's Toyotas, Hondas, Subarus last forever. You're going to drive that at least a decade.
Yeah.
And they fine.
Yeah, and one thing, and I think it's just so important to think about is, especially when you're talking to people about their wealth, is where are some of those hidden costs? Because buying a new car in California, when you get that registration bill from the DMV, it's like, you've never seen this kind of thing before, because the first 3 years they charge basically the sales tax again. So it's crazy what you pay. And it's like, I don't know why I got myself into this.
And I will say, like, these very exotic cars, I do have clients who are like, they want to get a Lambo or something like that. Sure. Those exotic cars, they're meant to be driven. And they have to be driven in a very specific way. Yeah. So if you're going to splash out $300,000 on a car, you probably should be trained on how that car drives. Right. You're not going to just get into a Lamborghini and drive off. You have to know how to drive the car. And a lot of people don't realize that because they're buying the car as a status symbol instead of something that really brings them joy as a car enthusiast. And so, I can't tell you how many people with these ultra luxury cars have messed up something very expensive, have inadvertently hit something, have damaged some major mechanical system because they don't know how to drive them.
Yeah, getting into cars, but so I think it's just a symbol of everything else, right? When you're building wealth, and I remember we used to play the game. Was it? I can't think of that. The Rich Dad Poor Dad game,
Yeah.
And the doodads and gewgaws, right?
Yeah.
That's just bury you.
Yeah. I mean, if you love cars, I have clients who are very passionate about Corvettes, and he has a Corvette, but he knows a lot about Corvettes, and he's known them for 25 years and always wanted one, and he got a great deal. Fantastic, do it. But ask yourself, is it meaningful to me in any way? And if you're just doing it to impress someone else, don't do it.
Yeah. Well put. Well, we are just about at time. We'll definitely have you back, Robin. Now that we love to drill down on more issues and get an update maybe later next year sometime. So thanks for all the great insights, and we will put the link to your LinkedIn. If there's any other contact you want me to put in the comments, either pop it there or send it to me. And thanks so much for your insights. If you have any closing remarks, feel free to make them.
Can you just put I'll just put my email address. You can also just share that as well. But, thank you for inviting me on. It's always a pleasure to spend time with both of you. I would love to come back on and share what I know.
Yeah, there's so much to know. And I think you're a great source of information for this kind of thing. I think you're definitely, what I feel is like, you definitely kind of fit into sort of that every person's, financial advisor. And
right.
That's so important. And
right.
It's sometimes difficult to find in this market,
in
any market. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. All right. Well, thank you both for your time, and thank you for inviting me on today.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for coming, and we'll see everyone next week on Quantum Leap. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.